What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and in today's video I want to talk about some of the upcoming changes to Rainbow Six Siege with patch Year 3 Season 4.1. These changes were very briefly up on the test servers, and I captured some comparison footage to demonstrate exactly how these changes will affect gameplay once they go into the live build of the game. The most important gameplay changes I will be showing off are the 44 mag semi-auto pistol nerfs and the adjustment to Valkyrie's cam throwing ability, plus there were also notes on recoil changes for a whole selection of guns. Let's go and take a closer look. Okay, let's get the simple topic out of the way first. In the original TS patch notes, the developers told us that there would be recoil changes to Ella's Scorpion, Mira's Vector, Alibi's MX4 Storm, Valkyrie's MPX, and Thatcher's AR-33. After Wind Bastion went live, quite a number of fans, including me, wrote to Ubisoft to provide feedback and asked questions about the new recoil for these weapons. In fact, here I am in one of my Twitch streams using the Scorpion for the first time after the patch.
10 seconds to insertion.
Just not even aiming at it. You know why I wasn't aiming at it? Because I was expecting the recoil to punch me about like a maniac. Look at this! Like, it's not until like half the magazine is down that actually anything happens. That's amazing. Wow! That's a monster buff. I was completely floored by how controllable the gun was all of a sudden, and so I fed this back to Ubisoft and asked if there had been any other changes to gun recoil because I really wanted to cover these changes in a video. And as the patch notes tell us, I was not the only one who noticed these changes, but apparently there was some confusion here. Ubisoft followed up these fan reports with an internal investigation which actually found that there was no change in the recoil, but this was then miscommunicated and we somehow ended up with patch notes that falsely did list the changes for these guns on the test server, but this was later then updated with the final statement we have now. Confusion all around it seems, but long story short, there was never intended to be any change to the recoil of these guns for Operation Wind Bastion, and there was certainly no difference between the current live build and the test server build. I made sure to double check. If any changes did sneak in at the beginning of Wind Bastion, they were bugs rather than intentional updates, and they have already been ironed out at this stage. So that's that, and more importantly, let's now look into the proposed changes to Nomad and Kaed's 44 mag semi-auto pistol. If you're enjoying this mini DMR right now, use it while you can, because very soon it will be nothing but a long-lost memory of the past, just like the SMG Pocket Sniper build and Jaeger's 416 with ACOG. Gone but never forgotten. As I have demonstrated in several of my last videos, the 44 mag is currently an insanely powerful, high fire rate, relatively controllable gun with a sight that shares the same magnification as the ACOG, but with less obstruction to the player's view. In short, it is probably the outright best semi-auto gun in the game, and in all fairness, as fun as it can be to have a stupid gun like this in the game, it is simply OP and needs this nerf. Two things are planned as of now. Firstly, damage will go from 7462 to 5448. So those are the maximum and minimum damage numbers up until 12 meters and from 22 meters and onwards, with a linear drop-off in between. In practice, this changes the 44 mag from a 2-body shot gun against all 3 armor types at pretty much all ranges into mostly a 3-body shot weapon. With the upcoming patch, only level 1 armor operators can be taken down in 2 shots at distances up to around 18 meters, and once rook plates come into play, you might even need 4 or even 5 hits, depending on the opponent's armor level. So number 1, much less power, and in addition to that, the gun is also getting another recoil nerf. Here is a side-by-side comparison of the current live build and the test server, and you can see that controlling the 44 mag is about to get just that extra bit harder in the near future. My personal opinion on these changes is that they are probably for the best. The 44 mag launched as an unbelievably powerful weapon, and these changes will hopefully bring it down to a level where players can still get some good use out of the unique optic of the gun, without this sidearm actually being a better choice compared to most primary weapons. And finally, let's compare Valkyrie's camera throwing abilities. The mechanics for almost all throwables were changed at the beginning of Operation Wind Bastion, and for most operators, the minor buff to throwing distance didn't really make a huge difference. Valkyrie, though, is a different story, and it didn't take long before some outrageous screenshots started to circulate on Twitter showing Valcam images that basically looked as if they were taken from a geostationary satellite. This was an unintentional overbuff, which is now being rolled back to a certain degree. As you can see in the background footage, the current live build will allow Valkyrie to throw her cameras up to 27 meters away on a horizontal surface. This also goes for any other throwable except for C4, so goo mines, hand grenades, impact grenades, smoke canisters, drones, you name it, all of them have the same throwing arc. And while all the other gadgets will keep this arc, Valk cameras will be harder to throw after the patch, resulting in a max distance of around 17 meters on even ground. What do I think of this? Well, first up, I feel that buffing Valkyrie like this was an oversight. The decision was made to make throwing easier, and the consequences for Valcams were simply not taken into account. So first of all, I fully believe that this nerf is justified and needed. It would be absolutely insane to allow Valkyrie to stay this powerful. On the other hand though, I also have a bit of a concern. Changing Valk to have her very own throwing mechanics is going to make things more complicated again. The fact that all light throwables will behave in the same way but Valcams won't will make it more difficult for occasional Valk players to judge her throws. Sure, if you main Valk, you will simply get used to the arc and you will know what you're doing, but anyone else will probably find it confusing. Maybe a better option would be to nerf the throwing arc of all objects and thereby keep it consistent. Sure, it would be a shame to nerf all operators because one is OP, but I almost think that the benefit of having a unified, consistent throwing arc outweighs the downside of reduced throwing distance for all operators. My vote would be to keep things consistent, but that's just my opinion. What would you prefer? Consistent arc for all operators or just a nerf for Valk? Leave your comments below, I would really be interested to see what the community thinks. And those are pretty much all of the important proposed changes that are due to be released with the first update patch of Operation Wind Bastion. The notes also mention a change to IQ's gadget and how it interacts with the recoil of her pistol, but if we look at a side-by-side comparison of how the screen behaves, we can see that there isn't really a difference at all. My guess would be that the change already went in with the initial Wind Bastion launch, but was missed off the patch notes and so added here for completeness sake. The main thing I guess is that the recoil bug that affected IQ's screen during Operation Grim Sky has been fixed. Hurrah! But that really is it for the changes planned for the next patch. As always, I trust that this info is useful for you, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next episode.